this is on the record when I say that I'm a big fan of what you do. Every now and then, the wife goes, "Are you staying up late tonight?" And I say, "Yes." And she goes, "Are you listening to Warren again?" I go, well, "Of course, of
Oh,
course."
wow.
That
Okay,
happens from time to time because I've always thought that Warrant was a great deep cut band that people don't realize is a great deep cut band. You know, if you go to songs like Bed of Roses, Mr. Rainmaker, and all that, those were as those should have been as big as the 5 or 6 huge songs, in my humble opinion. I don't know if anybody ever gets on you about that. Of hey, that's a deep cut band.
I haven't really heard that. I mean, there are some great cuts that never got the light of day. The way that people in the music industry used to pick singles is an interesting beast in itself. So just, it's like everybody listens to everything. Once a record gets made, everybody listens to everything and then goes, "This is the first single, this is the second single." And I'm never on that. I'm rarely in agreement with that. So, or in agreement. So
Got it. And from where I stand, Warrant was also the first band to do a lot of things, but people don't really talk about that. For example, I don't remember any other of the hard rock bands that I'm not lumping you in, but people lump you in of the 80s metal, even though your hits really were in the 90s. Okay, whatever it is. I don't remember any other bands doing a pay-per-view. I don't remember other bands doing the Lodo Arena tour. I don't remember any of your other peers having an onstage keyboardist. All of them kept the keyboardist off stage and kind of hidden and not singing high parts. I don't remember other bands from that era doing Arsenio. How much of that was good management versus, hey, let's try and do new things?
I don't know. I mean, I don't. I didn't work in the management company in the office. I mean, I spent a lot of time in there back in the day. So I mean, I have different opinions about our management all the way around. I mean, management, band management, financial management,
Right.
lawyers. I mean, when you get older and you're more of a business, I've been in private business for over 20 years. So I have a different education now than I did back then. So I think things like pay-per-view, that was probably a management thing where they went and fished it out. I don't know if it found us and they just answered the phone or not, but it was done great. I mean, it was a great gig. I remember the one we did. It was in Lafayette, Louisiana, the Cajun Dome.
Yeah.
Fondly. I mean, it was at the height of the band's popularity during the Cherry Pie Arena tour that we did, the Lodo tour you talked about, and it was a great time to do it, And then we actually, I think we followed. We might have had the truck because there's a recording truck that comes along with all that, right?
Yeah.
I think we had that follow us to Houston the next night, and we all went in and listened to the tracks because usually you get an opportunity to make it sound even better live.
Read in it, yes.
So we didn't touch it. I mean, it's 110% live. So that I'm proud of because nowadays, like you say, the keyboard player that we had on stage then was Scott Warren, who we're all still friends with. Scott, was part of the band, so why not show him? I mean, we're not running any tracks. Everything's live.
Yeah.
So there's no hocus pocus. And today, there's a lot of bands that people are very much into that go see live. Not last year, right now, but when it kicks up again, that run massive tracks that
yes.
I know for a fact because I know crew members, and sometimes when I go to gigs, I see, the computer setting backstage in a little place where a guy runs them, and it's massive. So it's a joy to still be a live band today, and it was then, definitely.
What I mentioned about the Lodo Arena tour, as a music industry person, I know what that means. I don't know if the average person realizes that what that means is lower ticket prices, kind of guiding people into big venues where they're kind of like, what do I have to lose? This is just 10, 15 bucks here. Yet you were able to fill arenas on that tour. And just a few years later, that's kind of what broke Green Day, where they had the 2 or 3 hits, but they're playing these hockey arenas that otherwise people may not have paid for, but 10, 15 bucks, 20 bucks, what do I have to lose? So that was really a great move. And that pay-per-view really documented the band in a great way. And of course, the band never stopped. You took a 10-year break, but you never stopped. And I think it also speaks a lot to your guitar playing that Kerry Kelly had to replace you.
You know that Kerry Kelly grew up about 15 houses away from me, right?
No, I didn't know that.
So yeah, he when I was in my formative years in my garage playing with my band, we used to take a break and we'd open the garage door up and you'd see these little, this is a funny story, you'd see these little pudgy ankles and you'd roll it up and there'd be this little, I was probably 15, 16, this little 10-year-old kid, little pudgy guy at the time sitting there, and it was him. And we literally grew up in the same housing tract.
Wow.
So we've known each other. I've known him since he was 10. And that he came in at some point after I left and filled my shoes is fun. I mean, we're lifelong friends. I love him to death. He's a great guy. He's great in every band he's in. And but that's the story. And the funny thing is now he's skinnier than anything. And I got a little extra on me. How's that?
Well, people go up and down,
It's just funny that he was the fat kid now or then, and he's the skinny kid now, and I was the skinny kid then, and now I'm the fat kid. So pretty funny stuff.
With Kerry Kelly, it's interesting to see how he just keeps getting better and he keeps looking cooler as he gets older. Generally the reviews you see, you hear is, they sounded good, but he's not playing as well as he used to be. They don't look cool as they do. Kerry is just defining all the logic in that. But was that in Indiana that you grew up around him, or was that in California?
No, I actually left Indiana when I was born in Indiana and left there when I was young. And I grew up in California from 8 years old on. So I'm a Hoosier at heart, but California blood. Still have my Indiana blood, 50 degrees and wearing shorts. So it's no, it was in California that we grew up together. He's a fabulous guy, and I think we will probably see each other pretty soon on the road. I know we've got some gigs with Night Ranger this year, so I'm looking forward to seeing him, having a drink with him.
Yeah, looking ahead, I see that you have an upcoming gig with Eric Martin at Sweetwater Pavilion. So it looks like some gigs are still holding up for you guys, that there's not the postponements that a lot of people just have had to do again in the last 2-3 weeks.
We've got about 30 gigs starting in June through the end of the year, and we're just playing it by ear. I was at Sweetwater all week this week, actually. I'm a rare guy that tours and then also has a day gig and an education, and I was at Sweetwater all week this week. So talk to the powers that be, and we're hoping that the July 31st gig definitely goes on there. We love our Sweetwater friends.
Yeah. Now, something you said earlier about now that you're older, you have that financial know-how, or at least you know how things work. One of the amazing things to me about Warrant is what people call the peak of the band. The peak, and you know that because I've already said a bunch of deep cuts and research-oriented things, is people think, hey, #1 album, that's when you're making the most money in your career. But in the case of Warrant, you guys have been very successful as weekend warriors and putting out your own albums every 2-3 years. So when did things, for the first time, kind of turn around in terms of you realized, hey, we don't need a major label deal, we don't need to be on MTV, etc., and we can make great upper middle class to lower upper class kind of livings just doing this part-time?
You know what? It's never given to you. Anything in life that's worth having isn't free. And even in the beginning, when the band started, when I got in the band in 87 through all the success through to 94, 95, whenever I left, I don't remember. I think it was 94, was earned. We worked hard. And when I got back in the band, the challenges were greater because what you say, like MTV, record labels, even the big ones, weren't around. So it was like you had to do the same thing you did before again, but it was harder because that support wasn't around. So So everything we've done has just been earned. It's not like when I got back in the band in 2004, boom, we were getting the money we're getting now. Then, so it's just been a grind, and we've kept our heads down and worked. I work a 40-hour a week day gig that's got a lot of responsibility tied to it in the music industry. And then when I go out on the road, when we're able to, hopefully here in June again, if everything keeps on going the way we see it, I do 70, 80-hour weeks. So it's just hard work, like my dad said, nothing's free, or there's a value for free. Nothing beats hard work, and nothing good. What is it that, you're not entitled to a damn thing. The thing he said, but the list goes on. Everybody's got those stories. So yeah, we're stoked. I mean, we just want to get back out and play. We've worked really hard. We're working hard right now, getting ready to go back out and play. Right before I called you, I was reading emails from Jerry about, we don't rehearse usually. We just keep touring. As long as we play 2 or 3 gigs a month, we don't have to rehearse. Well, It's been 14 months since we played a gig, and we're going to have to rehearse for the first time in years, maybe the first time in a decade, at least. And so we're setting up the first rehearsals, which will be before our first gig going back in. So it's fun. It's exciting.
You're also at this point of your career where, let's say I'm making up a number here, a 15-song set list. Like 8 of those songs were hits. 4 or 5 of them, you've been playing them so long that they're practically hits. It must be a struggle to go, well, we want to put in a song from Louder, Harder, Faster, and we want to put in a song from Rockaholic, but we don't want to make them bored or less enthusiastic. Am I right about that?
You were 1 song off. We play a 16 song set.
Yeah.
In about 75 minutes. So there's not a lot of messing around. It's a lot to there's a little formula. I'm the guy who usually writes the set list out. And, depending on the year and what we're doing, we'll change things. This year, because Cherry Pie came out 30 years ago last September.
Right.
We're playing that whole record with the exception of 1 song, which is the cover tune that was on the record.
Yeah.
We may bring that in. I don't know. There's one guy in the band that doesn't want to play it. So we'll respect that. If I didn't want to play something, they'd probably respect that as well. But you just go out and play it and have fun at it. And you want to play the newer stuff because it's exciting, and it's challenging to play something newer. But at the same way, most of the fans want to hear that old stuff. So you're like, I got to play the old stuff,
Yeah.
And you got to understand that's what a lot of people are there to see. And some people that aren't so familiar with the band that might go to the gig, when they hear a song, they're like, oh, wow, that was this band, and so we pay respect to our heritage, definitely. And we do it well. Robert does a fantastic job.
Yeah.
On the old stuff. And we'd like to try to squeak at least one in from the latest record. And it just depends, it all depends on where we're going, how long we're playing.
Yeah, Robert is excellent, not just with the work that he's done with you guys, not just Lynch Mob. He's just excellent in general. I love the fact that he was singing off stage for Ozzy on a tour, and that was called out in an article. And then Sharon Osbourne's retort was, who cares? Who's talking about that 20 years later? But if he was good enough for Ozzy, he's good enough for Warrant, etc. When the first time I saw him was on video, not live. And I'm looking to see, can he cut it? Can he hit the high notes in I Saw Red? And he can. Did you know that outright? Was that part of the audition of, hey, here's the high song or two?
When we saw Robert, when I first got back in the band, we had Jamie St. James, and God bless him. But those are hard songs to sing.
Yeah.
Ask any singer, especially to the keys they're recorded at. And he, he had a hard time hitting some of those high notes. And then we had Janie back in the band for a run.
Yeah.
And I went to a gig and I ran into Robert. Robert wasn't on our radar. We just weren't thinking. I don't know why. It's kind of a difficult situation when you've got to replace somebody like Janie. And when I ran into Robert, I was just like, this huge light bulb went on, and I'm like, if this isn't going to continue with Janie because he wasn't doing well, this might be our guy, you know. And I was the only band member there that day at this gig. We were playing the next day, literally with Janie. And then the next morning, Robert came in and said hi to the band during sound check, and Jerry said the same, pulled him aside and did the same thing. So we knew, and then we rehearsed with him about a month later, and we told him 5 songs, and the hair, you know, not the hair on my head, but the hair on the back of my neck, so to speak, stood up, you know. I got goosebumps. It was rad. He nailed it. And hearing him and Steven together, I knew it would work. So it's the best that you can have is to have a professional like that come in and stand in for somebody who was extremely good at one point and do it justice. So
now, Stephen Sweet is an amazing singer. Was there ever a brainstorm of maybe he can sing lead in this band?
No, I mean, we're just a frontman led band, you know. We've got to have that guy in the middle out front. Steven sings all different kinds of he's probably one of the most talented guys in the band. I said that. He's just rad with singing, drums, painting. He's just let's put it this way, the most multifaceted creative guy in the band for sure. And but I mean, we just need a guy out front, you know, and Steven's not that front guy. Steven needs to sit behind his kit. His type of drumming is so unique, and it really drives this band. So we need to keep him behind the kit.
Yeah, agreed. Well, in spite of all the success Warrant has had, there's always been a lot of mystique. There's always been a lot of myths that people have not really cleared up. And will you mind me asking about a few of these? And
go ahead.
And if this is like sore topic, don't bring it up. Screw you. Next thing. Fine. The first thing was, is it true that Warrant almost signed to Paisley Park, the whole Prince label thing?
Well, it got as far as we were managed by his management company and a woman that had a big part in bringing him to the general public, a lady named Jamie Shoup, who's still a good friend of the band's and came to a gig a few years ago. And she got him to basically finance one of our demo tapes. And it was with the right of refusal that if he didn't like the demo tape, he could say, I'm not interested. You know, go ahead and let him use a demo tape. So we got a guy named Ed Cherney who passed a few years ago, produced our demo tape. Prince paid for it. I recorded it at Westlake Recording Studio, I think. Michael Jackson was in there at the same time doing Bad, I think.
Wow.
And he liked the demo tape. It had Down Boys, I think, on it, in Heaven, and maybe another song, Fatal Attraction, or something that never made a record. And then he wanted to see us live, so we sent him a live video, and he didn't like the way we were live, so he passed. So that's about as far as the Paisley Park thing went. But that's the story on that.
Yeah, that's kind of a part of history that's not ever been out there. We never hear about Prince working with rock artists. Any idea if he was looking at a few rock artists? P. Diddy had a thing where he was looking to sign a rock artist in the late 90s. He signed this band, Fuzz Bubble, great band, and the album never came out. And it's kind of this New York folklore thing. It sounds like what Prince was looking to do.
I don't know. I mean, there was, you know, you can't deny the success of rock bands in the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, the tens of millions or probably hundreds of millions of records that were sold at that time, between, if you grouped all of it together in one, is amazing. And I don't know if it's happened ever since then.
Yeah. It's definitely not happened with Greta Van Fleet, but there's no shortage of great rock music. Well, next topic. I remember reading in some liner notes somewhere, I don't know if it was on Dog Eat Dog or Ultraphobic, but one thing I read somewhere was that they sent out the first single to the album to radio, not under Warrant's name, as a mystery band. And then all these stations added it, and then they told people this is Warrant, and then they took that off all the playlists. Is that a true thing that you've heard?
I wasn't on Ultraphobic, so if it happened on that record, I couldn't tell you.
It wasn't Dog Eat Dog.
It was not Dog Eat Dog. No, Machine Gun definitely went out first, which I thought was the wrong single. I thought it should have been Hole in My Wall. I thought we could have made a better video regarding, voyeurism and a guy looking through a hole in his wall. I thought it would have been great, but nobody got that at the time, or maybe it was too risque, or after the whole cherry pie thing, people wanted to be more PG, or I don't know what it was, but that didn't happen on Dog Eat Dog.
Got it. I know that Warrant was tapped to do a David Lee Roth tour of Europe, maybe on the Eat 'em and Smile run. But I've heard that it was due to issues with Janie or an injury. And then I've also heard that there was a period where David Lee Roth did not want other blonde frontmen on tour. Do you know, could you verify which one that was?
It was the Little Ain't Enough tour in Europe, and we were on it. We did the first 4 dates, and I think it was 30 or 35 dates over there, and they were sold out, and cherry pie was flowing, and we met Diamond Dave somewhere in London during rehearsals for the first show the night before, because we were going to rehearse, and we walked in on him doing a set. He came off stage, came up to us, and introduced. I had known Dave because I'm a SoCal guy for a long time, and introduced himself to everybody and said, "Hey, if you need anything, let me know. Make yourselves at home." And first night of the tour, we didn't have a bottle of Jack in our room, so we sent our guy over to his dressing room and came back with a bottle of Jack. So Dave was very hospitable on that tour. 4 shows in, Janie went out and stepped on a road case, fell through it, scraped his ribs, and decided that he was going to go home. I think maybe some personal things were going on at home as well with his then girlfriend or wife, and he split in the middle of the night without anybody knowing it. Got on a plane and flew home, and that tour stopped real quick.
Got it. Yeah, unfortunately, you guys had as many starts and stops as, say, Alice in Chains did, where one person can keep derailing it. So that's the unfortunate part of it all. You don't have to comment on that. And the last topic is, there's certain producers who do a lot of interviews and always speak their truth, and you don't know if they remember everything correctly. And Beau Hill does a lot of interviews, and you hear a lot of things of, hey, we brought in a studio guy, we didn't bring in a studio guy, that kind of thing. My feeling was, or my assumption was, that Mike Slammer just played a few solos on your albums, and then otherwise it was you and Eric doing all the guitars. He doesn't seem to say it that way, but was that what it is?
Mike came in, Mike played 0 rhythms.
0.
0 rhythms. So that's all Eric and I. And then he did play some solos on the first 2 records. I could go through a list of every song and tell you who played exactly what.
I'm not asking that. I just wanted to dispel the myth about.
But yeah, I mean, here, let me just be frank about Beau. If you ask anybody in Winger, Warrant, I don't know how the guys in Kicks feel about Beau. They might have a different relationship. None of us are friends with Beau. Beau, his memory of what happened is different from my memory, is different from Eric's memory. I mean, I remember the second record we made with Beau, and this isn't to knock Beau, but this is what he was doing. He was in the vocal booth. He managed Winger at the time. Yeah. So he was Winger's producer and manager, and he was in the vocal booth managing Winger when I was doing the solo for Rainmaker, which is all me, with Jimmy Hoyson. And Jimmy Hoyson was the engineer. So the person that produced and engineered Cherry Pie to me, the guy that I worked with 110% of the time, was Jimmy Hoyson. Beau was rarely at the desk. Beau was rarely next to me in the chair. It was always Jimmy Hoyson. Beau was in the vocal booth. He'd open it up, listen to something, say yes or no, close the booth, and get back on the phone. That was Beau's involvement in Cherry Pie from my perspective. He was the most detached guy I ever worked with in the studio when it came to my guitars. That being said, Mike did play some solos. Mike's a wonderful player. He's a good friend of mine still to this day. I took some lessons from Mike after that happened on the first record I didn't like the fact that Beau was bringing in this ringer to do that, because the band wasn't about, we didn't need an Eddie Van Halen, and we didn't need that. We just needed a producer to work with us. Thus, listen to Dog Eat Dog. Which was no extra players at all. So it's unfortunate. Everybody has a different memory. That's definitely mine. That's definitely Eric's. And that's probably Mike Slamer's as well.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. Now, I tried to interview Beau a few times, and each time you go, "Hey, call me at this number," and you'd call, and then he wouldn't pick up, and you go, "Oh, okay, that is what it is." I wanted him to tell his side of the story on things, but another story he tells is about how Uncle Tom's Cabin. I guess he heard that there should be banjo, and you guys were out to lunch, and then he put the banjo on, or he learned how to play banjo, and then it went on, and that was that. I kind of get the vibe that some things were done without the band's consent, that he just put on extra tracks to things.
I don't know about that. I mean, he worked with Janie quite a bit, and that was an emulator. That wasn't a banjo. That was actually a digital version of a banjo.
Oh,
That he played on an emulator. Yeah, he didn't play any live banjo on that. Nobody did. So I don't remember. I remember hearing it. I remember sitting there looking at the emulator and he played it on, on a keyboard. So yeah, I don't remember if he just did it while we typically would bring lunch in during those sessions. The only time we ever really went out to lunch during a session would have been with Michael Wagner. That was more of a pilgrimage.
wow. Okay, you just cleared up a lot of stuff. And again, I don't look at Cherry Pie's the be all end all. The band is still doing great things. People still care. And in fact, it's very interesting to see how you guys have floated all the different festivals. So it's like if there's an 80s rock thing, you can play it. The 90s rock thing, you play it. A biker thing, because Robert has his Indian motorcycle thing going on and all that. You can do the biker stuff. You can do the state fair. So it's very interesting to see how versatile the band has kept on. And as we talked about before, there's gigs coming up. Are there plans to do another album or singles or anything like that?
We talked about it last year when this whole pandemic started, and we're like, well, should we do something now? And should we do something live on the web? Should we do a new record? And everybody was just like, you know what? We've been at this, since I got back in the band, Steven came back in the band since 2004. Mm-hmm. So that's roughly 16 years where we just haven't taken a break from the road or making a record. I think we've made 3 records in that time. So it was just, let's take a break and go away. We don't want to do anything that's going to harm the brand, or we just haven't gone away. So we went away. And now we're firing up to come back. I'm looking over here at my 78 Marshall Mark II, and my guitar is plugged straight into it. And I just practice real simple. I put the record on and I'm playing to the record and remembering things. I've gotten really lazy over the last 16 years of playing solos. So I'm just nailing everything exactly like the record. And I guarantee you that the other guys in the band are getting fired up too. So when we do get together to rehearse, we'll just be working on transitions between songs and not, I forgot how that goes, because if that happens, there's going to be some drumsticks flying or some guitars flying across.
Well, 2 quick questions and then you're free. And the first question is, one of the first things I asked was related to how Warrant did all these things first, or one of the first amongst all of its peers. Now, having done MTV and radios and talk shows and all that, is there anything you haven't done in your career that you still have on your to-do list that you have to do? And if the answer is no, I'm happy, that's fine too.
There's nothing that we haven't done that I'd like to do. There's some things we've done that we haven't done in a long time that I'd like to do. I'd like to go over to Japan and play. I'd like to go back to Australia and play. Both of those markets were really good to Warrant back in the day. Unfortunately, Europe, we never really, that Roth tour probably would have helped us out a lot if we got to go to the different countries. But the only time we really did anything over there was when we opened for Iron Maiden for about 2 weeks, which was absolutely fantastic on the Dog Eat Dog run. And the Maiden guys were great to us, and we did well. But going over to Europe would be a tough one, because we'd have to start all over like we did in 2004 when I got back in the band. And at this point of our career, I don't know if there's a lot of desire to do that type of thing. You know, we really love our fans in the States. So we concentrate here, Canada, love to get to Japan and Australia. And, you know, if we get an offer to go somewhere else, we just vet it and see if it's something that we want to do. But so that's one thing I'd like to do again. But as far as stuff we haven't done, no, man, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm so glad to hear that. And my closer has nothing to do with anything we talked about. That's, what is your favorite TV show of the moment, or a show that people should be watching, but they're not?
Well, I've got a son that's about to turn 9, a daughter that's about to turn 30, and a son that's about to turn 9. So my current show is, I'd have to say, Phineas and Ferb.
Theme song is done by Jarrett from Bowling for Soup, right?
I guess, man, it sounds like some poppy songwriter. So I think it is Bowling for Soup, because I think I saw them. They were actually in one of the episodes, you know.
And he's a fan of Warren. I don't know if you know
that. Oh, okay.
If you want, I'll connect him with you. But either way, Joey, thank you for your time. Thanks for the years of excellent music, and hope to see you live in New York when things get normal again.
Darren, when we come out there, let me know, and we'll get you backstage where we can share a beer.
2 thumbs up, man. Keep up the great,
buddy.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye now.
Paltrocast.